The 26th of January 2023, you're welcome back to Real True Education, Not Fake News. It's a serious video, and this is 51p on forestry protest today. There was a protest in Dublin today on the issue of forestry and the sellout of our land to vulture funds. Now, what's happened is that up to now, if you want to plant a bit of land and get the grants and all that, you have to agree that when the time is up in 25 years, that you have to agree to replant it again. You cannot let it go back to agriculture. That is the diktat of the government. There's not enough voters to get that changed. That's an absolute disgrace. A person now might want to plant his land at my stage of life and might say, well, I could have a child or a grandchild or somebody coming along who might want to farm it in years to come, and I'll plant it now and we can take up the trees and put it back into agriculture if we want to. You're not allowed to do it. Once you put it into agriculture, it's dead. It's forestry forever. And there's not that much in it. There's a bit of a grant in it, and you can't go back to agriculture. That's the nature of the law the government, Irish government, has in place. There is no legal basis for it in European law, but that's the way it is. Now, anyone who wants to contact me, there's my name and address: Val Martin, Kingscourt, County Cavan. Val Martin, Kingscourt, County Cavan. That's it. So the protest was on today on the 26th of the 1st, 2022. In Ireland, there are a number of semi-state bodies. A lot of them own land. Department of Defence, the Department of the Board of Mona, the Turf Crowd, and the Board of Works. But the forestry people, which is known as Culture, the Forestry Board is known as Culture, which is the Irish for forestry, is owned by, under the responsibility of the Minister for Agriculture, Charles McConnell, and the Minister for Finance, okay? So it's jointly owned 50-50%. So Culture was doing its own planting as well and its own harvesting, and they left a unmerciful mess up at the top of the Lough Mountain in East Cavan. They just ploughed all over it. They left an awful dirty mess in what used to be a grouse moor with heather and all that. That's a side issue. The CEO of Culture on the 16th of December 2022 signed a deal with British Vulture Fund Investment House to partner, and their name is Gresham. They signed a deal with Gresham, a big investment house whose purpose is to make money. They have no interest in the Irish countryside whatsoever. And they get 100% grant. They'll get 22,000 euros per hectare, about 10,500 per acre, and everything's tax-free. And when it's all over, they can walk away, and who's going to do anything with them, whereas the Irish person has to replant or he loses all he got. Now, I don't know whether you've seen the connection, but in 1798, the Irish were finally defeated against the British, and they immediately started the plantations of Ulster, and the landlord system was introduced into Ireland big time. There was already some of it in the late 1700s, it has to be said, but it got underway big time in the early 1800s, so that by the time the famine broke out, the whole land was owned by landlords who simply let it back to the Irish farmers and their own friends or anyone that was prepared to take it. You had no rights whatsoever. You could be here farming your bit of land, you could be paying your rent, you could miss a rent payment and they could put you out. Not only that, if they didn't like you or didn't like your politics, they could put you out. It took 200 years to get them brought basically off the people's backs. 200 years and terrible bloodshed to get this injustice off our backs, where the British came in and took all our land, took all of it, and lived the life of luxury in big houses and absentee landlords and all of that. That's the reality. Now we have vulture funds competing with our children for houses, and we have vulture funds and finance houses being paid off our electricity bill to stick their windmills on the farmers' who are weak enough and who are dumb enough to think that they're making money when in fact they'll walk off and make them take them down, and down they have to come. So that's the wind thing. But the point about the forestry is now we have the same, because these people, when they get in, they can come along and they can bid for land with culture. They can put in the land. So if there's a young lad there who wants to buy a bit of land, or a farmer see maybe he has 70 acres, he wants to buy 10 acres beside him, instead of have neighbours and other people trying to buy a bit, he's going to be competing against Gresham, a huge multinational pension fund. And that's what Fianna Fáil is about to do. That's what Fine Gael is about to do. That's what the Greens crave. They want trees all over the place. They want the farmer out. They want the cows reduced in numbers. They want data centres to replace the farmers. I've said this so many times, and they're being supported by Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and that's the reality. And in my honest opinion, we have no hope of People Before Profit or Sinn Féin doing any different. I would not trust them. They're mad into this green baloney. So essentially, oh, the climate is changing. Oh my God, there's global warming. Give the land to a British investment company and hump out the farmers. That's the reality. Now, there are unions and associations on forestry in Ireland, and they will do their best. I would respectfully say, if you don't have me involved in your planning, you won't succeed. This is a strategic infrastructure job as well, for planning and all that, and planning is needed for certain things. I'll not go into it now. I will almost certainly do a new video setting out more detail. This is to get it started. Now, one of the tactics of the associations is the competition authority, that it might be a breach of competition rules, and I wish them great luck with that. My opinion is no regulator works in Ireland. I've tested them till I was blue in the face. Advertising, energy, finance, they do not work. Then the state aid rules within the EU. But sure, there's EU rules on the environment, and you have to fight tooth and nail to get them enforced. I wish them luck with that as well. There is also a cap, there's a premium cap of €160,000 per natural person or company for state aid to land-based things. That might be something. The idea would be that this company, Gresham, could only receive 160,000 in state aid. I won't give an opinion because it's all to be taught. And the Forestry Association are going to do a press release. It's all very fine. They might win, but I've been down this road before, and I don't think they will win. Now, I have a weapon up my sleeve, and it took me 10 years to get this weapon used. I was told by smart people, planning consultants, I was wrong. And that is that when we joined the EU, they promised us protection for the environment, and they brought out the Strategic Environmental Assessment Directive 20142 EC, or EU, 20142 EU. And if you get it online, and I'll be doing another video on it, you go into the Lex version, the official EU version of it. There's no colour or anything, it's just all in print. And that directive has a preamble, which is only just chat or talk or hope or wishful thinking. It has the articles which are binding. They are legally binding. There is no way out of them. And it has the annexes which set out the technical matters, what's covered by this or what's not covered, or how some decisions be made. So you want to read Article 2 to 4, and particularly Article 3.2, which says that an environmental assessment shall be carried out for agriculture, forestry, fishing, energy, town and country planning, tourism, and there's a good few more. Okay, now that's the law. People say it's not the law, but I say it is the law. And we went to the Irish High Courts, 3 people went there, and it shot us out. It threw our cases out. My case was thrown out by Judge Max Barrett, who said the Board Planola had no decision to make. And so the ordinary Irish High Court to date has refused to accept that this is the law, and we never brought it any further. But Friends of the Irish Environment, when they were beaten in the High Court, went to the Court of Appeal, and it didn't agree with them either. And then they went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has 9 judges, and 7 of the 9 ruled on it. On this, only 7 ruled. The other 2 wasn't involved, and they ruled unanimously, 7-7, 7-0. All 7 agreed there is something to the SEA directive, and they referred the case of the Friends of the Irish Environment to the EU Court of Justice. And it's there now, and its case number is 702. 702. Okay, 727. Sorry, I'm just not thinking. It's a bit hard to keep everything in the head. 727 is the case. You get it there on the internet. There's not much in on it yet. I would fear the Friends of the Irish Environment will pull it, because they are essentially a type of green organisation. I'm not sure they will go ahead, but it proves anyway that if you get to the Supreme Court, they'll give you the proper ruling. Now, in 2019, a Belgian group opposing a wind farm, and I know many people will turn off, oh, he's against wind, folks. The SEA directive has energy, it has agriculture and forestry and fisheries. It's all on the one directive. And they went in to the court fighting a wind farm on the grounds that the 2006 wind energy guidelines were never assessed under the SEA directive. And the case is C-2419, and the European Court of Justice ruled, 1, the 2006 guidelines are a planner programme. 2, once they're taken heed of by planners, they are the law, they are official. 3, they were not assessed under the SEA directive ever. There was no environmental report, no public participation. Next, any wind farm granted under them must have its permission annulled. And quashed. And at the request of the Belgian government, it said all existing wind farms built under the 2006 guidelines in any member state must have their permission annulled. And that means that all existing wind farms in Ireland must be torn down. That'll take a little time, that's my goal. But the point is, it proves there's already one wind farm refused in Belgium. There's another one held up in the Netherlands, in Holland. None have gone in. They can't get over this problem. They haven't the brains to do an assessment anyway. And I have been helping and advising groups. One that used it was Guggenbarra in South Cork, a very beautiful area. It won a judicial review where that was a ground. There was one in North Kildare, and it won a judicial review where that was a ground. They didn't have the guidelines, didn't comply with the law. And there's one pending in Meath that was to go into planning in October, and it never arrived because they know they're going to be caught with this, and they're busily trying to beat us on it. That we'll have fun with that. There's 2 wind farms being planned for Kilkenny, and they were to go to permission in January, and there's no sign of them yet. And they're in the same boat there. And in all these places, the groups are all geared up, and I made a decision that if any groups are prepared to go ahead, I'll advise them to use 2419. As I said, I cannot be held liable for the way my legal advice is given. I'm not the lawyer of any group, and if it's used wrong and it's not pleaded properly, a party could lose, and you could end up paying costs and all types of things. I can't be held liable for that. But at least if people knows it, they can use it. Now, I have proven that it works. There is no way out of it. Why not use it for forestry? Well, a lot of the groups say they're afraid to use the SCA in case it might stop ordinary forestry. And I simply don't believe that doing that. It certainly would delay more forestry applications. But now we have a situation that everyone who wants a bit of forestry or to buy a bit of land or anything is competing with a British vulture fund. It's high time that anyone who would like to try and challenge on this would listen and contact me. I've given you a contact at the start, detail at the start of the video. I'll be doing another video on it again. It is simply outrageous, and it's another saga, another chapter in the sellout of our country and our land and everything by this current government, this woke government. And what looks like the intention of any new government is to do the exact same. We have a weapon. This is a weapon, and the SEA directive is a weapon. The most potent and powerful weapon you could possibly have. I wouldn't ask for any better. It's just, have we the will to use it? Surely, with all the forestry people, there's enough money there. It'd cost about 40,000 to run it through the High Court, and then it might cost another 20 to bring it up to the higher courts. But you're fairly guaranteed to win. That's the law. Article 3.2 of the SEA Directive 201/42 EC, and that's fully incorporated in Irish law by statutory instruments. They're caught with it, but for some reason, many lawyers don't want to use it, and many people don't want to go against the government. Anyone wants to hear from me as to how I would advise to do it, I will tell them there are barristers well prepared to tackle this, and they're not that expensive really. And if it's a big organisation for forestry or whatever, why not give it a go? And even if you never used it, if you never went to court, the fact that you have that big stick over government might force them, because the minister surely has a say. How can the CEO of Kilcha sign up the rights of the land of the country, which is ultimately under the charge of the Minister for Agriculture and the Minister for Finance? That's why it's made like that. So the object of the exercise has to be to stop this deal, get it over with. Kilcha have enough funding. Why can't they do the job that's assigned to them? And why, when they can't plant their own land, why do they have to take other people's land to give it to British vulture funds to plant in this place? Folks, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and we'll probably do another video on this with a bit more detail. I'll be coming back with a bit more detail and to try and organise resistance to this massive illegality for the building of fancy schemes by this decrepit government on all these various things, and no proper assessment. And the country full of universities, the country full of scientists and engineers and experienced people who can compile this environmental report. Hopefully I'll get time, or somebody will get time, to put in an access to information environment request and ask them, is there an environmental report, and see will they say yes or no. They won't answer to date. Folks, that's it. We'll see you back for something else. Thank you very much.